Hey guys, what's up? Scotch Duck here once again. Okay, so this is my review slash thoughts on Yakuza Like a Dragon. Okay, I always flip flop on how I say that. I always either say Yakuza or Yakuza. I don't know. I'm probably gonna do that in this video as well. But anyway, yeah, this game, guys. Oh my. Okay, now it's no secret, right? It's definitely no secret whatsoever that Yakuza is like my franchise right now, okay? It's the thing that I flock towards, right, okay? You guys know that I talk about Sega a lot on this channel, okay? They're my favorite publisher. I like to discuss what they do, the games they come out with, right? But I really do see Yakuza as like the backbone of the company, at least right now in the past like few years or so, where, you know, franchises like Sonic have not necessarily been like in the gutter, but they've not been like as prominent, I should say. But Yakuza, that's definitely not the case. Okay, Yakuza is everywhere, and Yakuza is very... I can't say it enough, guys, right? I'm sorry. It's just so weird still, to this day, how big the franchise has become now, okay? As someone who was there at the PS2, alright? I never would have expected this. I really wouldn't, okay? Because, yeah, Yakuza Like a Dragon has come out in the West. It's released on like multiple platforms, and I can tell you without any data that this is without a doubt the biggest launch the series has ever had. And it warms my heart. It truly does. But whatever. What do I think about this game? Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to bring this up right now because I think this is this important, alright? Game developers, right? Like, I tweeted about this and I was like very vocal about it, right? Japanese game developers specifically making turn-based RPGs, okay? Please don't make it so that when the main character dies, it's game over. Oh my, please, okay? Like, I'll get fucking down on the floor, alright? I'll beg you, okay? Please do not ever do that. It's literally the worst thing about this game, okay? In fact, I couldn't even give this game a 10 out of 10, because that's there, okay? Because so much of your fucking time gets wasted to this bullshit, alright? It really does, okay? It was there in Persona, I fucking hate it there, and it's here right now, and I fucking hate it here as well. Yeah, just don't do that. Just don't do that. But anyway, what else is there to talk about? So, yeah, this is the first game to feature a brand new protagonist for the Yakuza series, Kasuga Ichiban, alright? And along, as we already just ranted about, it's a turn-based RPG. And let me tell you, right, like, how did I feel, right? Like, a year and a bit, like, later, right? How do I feel about this sudden shift in genre, okay? Like most people, I was definitely apprehensive, but at the same time, thinking back then, I thought it was a very Yakuza thing to do, okay? Because as is very eloquently summed up in the game itself, okay, Kasuga Ichiban is a massive fucking Dragon Quest nerd, alright? And the reason that it's a turn-based RPG is simply because that is how he perceives his battles, alright? And again, that's just so delightfully Yakuza, I can't, even if I hated turn-based RPGs, which I don't, I have to respect the shit out of it for that, because it's just a very ingenious way of doing it. But how is the combat itself? It's pretty good, you know, I don't want to say it's fairly standard, because it does actually bring some new things to the table, and can feel delightfully Yakuza at times with how over-the-top it can get with some of, like, the, you know, the sort of, like, special moves that you can do, you know, down to, like, you know, beating somebody who's already on the ground with a bat to, you know, tripping them up and spraying pepper in their eyes, you know. Again, it's all very, or even, like, one of the female classes is a Night Queen, aka a Dominatrix, and one of the moves that you can unlock for that is to literally take a candle and spray an enemy with candle wax, and it's just like, this is so wonderfully Yakuza, okay? If anybody says it doesn't feel like a Yakuza game, I strongly disagree, okay? Not only does it visually, it's there, but just like on this level of its humor, it's there as well, alright? And another thing it kind of reminds me of, I shit you not, is Skies of Arcadia. Not in the sense that, how should I put this? I know that this is something that's not like unique to Skies of Arcadia, and by extension, Yakuza Like a Dragon, but your positioning on the field kind of matters, down to like your attacks can like attack in a straight line, or they can attack like certain areas, or items that you can pick up and attack enemies with maybe in your line, and Ichiban will pick them up automatically and hit enemies with them, okay? And it's all very luck-based, because you can't directly control your character, okay? And I remember this being a thing in Skies of Arcadia, you know? Like, you had to, like, rely on luck if you had an attack that would go in a straight line or attack a certain area. You had to hope that enemies were close together or did line up properly, and you couldn't control it. And I'm not saying it got like super frustrating here. It was just like sometimes I would throw out a move, and when I thought I was going to attack like 4 enemies, sometimes I would only attack like 2. And I was like, oh well. But very, very nitpicky in that sense. You know, bottom line is the turn-based combat. It's very Yakuza, and it's very well put together. All right. Again, that fucking main character dying thing is the worst thing, without a doubt. And there's other like staples, which are like, you know, summons or pound mates as they're called, which is really fucking good, by the way. Very, very fucking good. Yeah, there's also, I guess I should also mention, there's some like Paper Mario inspired shit in there where timed button presses will increase your attacks or cause you to like have some defense, you know, so it keeps you on your toes as well. You're not just like you're not just watching turn-based battles play out and the like. But yeah, other than that, you know, the city that you explore is a brand new city based on Yokohama, and it is apparently like 3 times bigger than Kamurocho. And Kamurocho and Sotenbori are in this game, but they don't really do much with them. Like, they pretty much just have everything in them that was already there in like past Yakuza games. Like Sotenbori in particular, I wouldn't be surprised if that was just literally copied and pasted right from Kiwami 2, because I remember walking about trying to think, is there anything different here? In fact, I think actually a big bit of it has actually been taken out. Fuck, I might need to go back and double check that, because it might have just been... I'm trying to remember if it was actually... This area I'm thinking of was taken out in Kiwami 2. Fuck. But whatever. They're there, and apart from like story-related reasons, there's not too much reason to go back to them. I mean, there is some specific things, for sure, but you're definitely going to be spending a majority of your time in Ijincho, which is the new city based on Yokohama. And it's a very diverse city, you know? Like, all the areas are very, like, clearly identifiable, and, you know, there's a lot more taxis, a lot more, like, ground to cover, and a lot more shit to find. But ultimately, it is pretty much just what you would expect from a new city in a Yakuza game. It's just a lot fucking bigger, right? You know, but still, nonetheless, jam-packed with shit to do. I mean, there's a few, like, sort of, like, less dense areas, I suppose, with not too many, like, buildings that you can go into. But like not the commercial district, but the district that's like all filled with like offices and shit. You know, there's very little to do in that area. But again, it adds to the sort of atmosphere and the sort of like virtual tourism. I hear that word said a lot when describing Yakuza these days. You know, a lot of that, it adds a lot to that, I would say. But is there anything else I wanted? I mean, I guess we could talk about how pretty it looks. I played this game on a PC. At a 2K resolution, 60 frames per second. Ijincho looks fucking gorgeous at night, you know, especially like when you're near the water and you see like all the buildings and like the lit up Ferris wheel in the background. It's really, really pretty. You know, the Dragon Engine, you know, it's like in its sort of shift to newer consoles like PC and the Xbox and stuff. I see a bit more criticism towards the Dragon Engine for not being that well optimized. And if that's true, fair enough, but it can definitely pump out some really gorgeous stuff, okay? Absolutely. I wouldn't say it's any, like, better looking than what you saw even back in, like, Yakuza 6, you know? Outside, obviously, improved performance and resolution on better hardware, obviously. But, yeah, it's still very nice to look at, and I wonder where they'll go from here, really. They're probably working on the new engine. I wonder how that'll go. But yeah, so love the overworld. You know, the sort of shit that you can do in said overworld, kind of by the numbers as far as Yakuza games go. There's all the hilarious sub-stories, there's the like specific mini games, you got business management, you got Dragon Cart, you got this thing called Part-Time Hero, which I was very upset wasn't called Rent-A-Hero. You got like vocational school, you got karaoke is obviously there again, the Sega arcades. It's just, again, it's just jam-packed to what you would expect a Yakuza game to be. I guess some of the newer additions as well would be like new optional dungeons. I mean, it is an RPG, and yes, there are. Gauntlets are basically replaced with legitimate dungeons with like treasures that you can unlock and mini bosses and shit. And there's not that many of them actually, but when they come up, I really like the dungeon theme for this game. You know, when I was going about in them, it was tons of fun. You know, but is there anything else gameplay wise I kind of wanted to go over? I guess some criticism is that, and this has been brought up in some reviews as well, there was some RPG-isms that held it back a little bit. Like, I did have to grind a few times. There are some boss fights that are pretty damn difficult, you know. There are some easy spots to, like, level grind, and sometimes you have to dig deep into the side content to find places where, like, you would be able to buy the best armor or the best weapons and shit and equip them to your party and, you know, take it from there. But I would say it's probably a bit more difficult than your standard RPG, at least one of the ones that I've played in a recent memory. But hopefully they can iron that out in the sequels. You know, this is their first time doing one after all, and damn good effort for a first time. Let me tell you that. But I guess we'll like go over to the story here now. If I talk spoilers, which I may just, I'll be sure to put up like timestamps and stuff to say, you know, skip here to avoid the spoiler shit, because I don't want to like do too much there. But yeah, basically it starts off kind of similar to Kiryu, you know, where Ichiban goes to jail for a crime he didn't commit. He gets out, the world's went to shit. He has to fix it, and he fixes it. But obviously, again, being a JRPG, he has party members, and they're all very likable characters. You know, you got Namba, the homeless guy who just does not give a fuck. You've got Saiko, who's the hostess, who's like sassy as shit, and you know, I just never got tired of like hearing her badmouth shit. And you've got like Adachi, the ex-cop. I'm trying to think who was my favorite. My favorite was probably Zhao, funnily enough, who doesn't come until much later in the game, by the way. Almost to the point that he feels a little bit rushed, you know, like you don't get enough time with Zhao, but I don't know, something about the way he talks, something about the way he attacks, it was in his design, I don't know, I kind of gravitated towards him the most, for whatever reason, but but yeah. Other characters that interact with Ichi along the way, you know, it's your typical Yakuza flair. He's got a father figure. He's got, like, people above him. He's got people below him. Villains that he meets along the way, and he makes look really bad. And he's got, like, a very different way of, like, tackling it all compared to Kiryu. You know, Kiryu was very clearly... Oh, man. I say this so much. Kiryu is my all-time favorite video game character, guys. And after playing, like, this, as well as like Judgment and even Fist of the North Star, you know, these other Neo Gotoko Studio games that don't start Kiryu, I've kind of come to realize, like, this is almost embarrassing to admit, but when I play as Kiryu, I love being Kiryu, you know? Like, I love being this guy whose resolve is so strong, who is so convinced that he knows what he's doing is the right thing, that if he sees a shred of bullshit, he will call people out on it, and that reassurance that it will always work out well, because chances are that bullshit is going to come at him with his fists, and in turn, he will come at the bullshit with his fists, and always come out on top because he's an overpowered piece of shit, okay? I love that, okay? That's no joke, that's probably my male fantasy right there, is to be Kazuma Kiryu and punch everything so hard that it fixes literally all of my problems, alright? And Ichiban doesn't really do that, you know, like, again, most other protagonists in the RPG games don't, you know. Ichiban Kazuka the way I would like to sort of describe him is that he is what you would describe as a typical JRPG hero. You know, wide-eyed, a bit hot-headed, charismatic. You know, all his party members like to congregate around him and really get behind him. You know, strong sense of justice, blah blah blah. You know, he literally has all of these tropes, but what makes it fresh and what makes it not feel like what is that obviously it's in modern day. You know, it's not some fantasy shit where it's gonna feel like super anime. You know, Ichiban talks like a real person. You know, he's in the real world and he can take this personality trope, which in most games is very cliched, but in real life, you know, not so much. There's probably not too many people in the world that could pull off that sort of stigma, but Ichiban does, and that's what really, I think, makes me gravitate towards him, and I'm sure many people will as well, you know, is the fact that they were able to pull that off so well. But I guess, as far as the story goes, and this has nothing to do with, me definitely preferring Kiryu to Ichiban, I don't think the story was really as memorable. I don't know. Maybe it's because it's an RPG and it's paced differently and it's spread out a bit more, the story. But there really wasn't that much in the way of, the sort of, semi-CG cutscenes that you would get. The ones that are, fully mocapped and stuff. Okay? There wasn't too many of those. In fact, and I know they've been using these since Yakuza 6, but there was a lot of cutscenes that were just in-game, they were all a lot of them were fully voiced, not all of them I should say, but a lot of them were fully voiced, but you would just hit the button and you would skip through them, and yeah, it was very static looking. It wasn't that sort of cool Yakuza cutscenes that typically we're used to, and yeah, it's I feel like I shouldn't be too critical, I suppose, because it's not like it's presented badly or anything, but yeah, the overall plot wasn't as strong, I feel. Maybe that's just my own Kiryu bias again, I don't know, but that is my sort of take on that. I'm sure many people will love the story, there wasn't anything bad with it, really not. I just didn't find it to be as, slap me in the face. Well, it definitely had its moments, but I don't know, I'm sort of rambling here. Bottom line is, yeah, it's good. I just didn't find it as good. That's all. So, right, I feel like I've rambled enough here, but do we talk spoilers now? Actually, there's really only one thing I want to discuss, and yeah, I'll put up a timestamp, well, I'm kind of wrapping up the video, but we'll see what happens. If I put up a timestamp, go there if you must, but yeah, the thing that really, the craziest thing, I suppose, to take away from this game is that era of Yakuza that we knew from the first 7 games, from 0 to 6, it's definitely, over. All the characters that return from those games, you get, sort of resolutions for them, really, and I can't see them coming back. And probably the most shocking thing that happened is that the Tojo clan and the Omi Alliance, they're both gone, those organizations do not exist anymore in this world. So it's wow, so much of what Kiryu's story was coming back to the Tojo clan and fighting the Omi Alliance. He did it in several games where the Omi Alliance was obviously involved in a lot of ways, but yeah, that's apparently not a thing anymore now. So where's Ichiban gonna go from here? And I imagine that Ryoga Gotoku Studios has thought about this. They must have been okay, well, we know we're gonna do this, but it's alright because in this game we're gonna do it like this, blah blah blah. I personally think it's a desire to get away from the organized crime stuff in Japan, because the game sort of echoes this, and I can't say I know for sure if this is a real thing. I don't live in Japan, but it seems like recent years have not been kind to the Yakuza. Okay, there's been a lot of laws put in place that really makes it harder for them to function, you know? And maybe they just want to write that out of the Yakuza story, which is odd, you know, because obviously in Japan it's not called Yakuza. It's called Ryuga Gotoku, which translates out to like a dragon. So it doesn't necessarily have to be about the Yakuza. The name Yakuza was just chosen, I don't know, it was probably just chosen to a nice ring like Grand Theft Auto. I don't know, it was supposed to indicate that it was a crime story like that series, and that's what Sega was maybe hoping for at the time, which is probably why it's subtitled at least like a dragon, because they want to like gravitate more towards that game than the Yakuza, because they probably could make a game with Ichiban and it having nothing to do with the Yakuza, but he still gets involved in some sort of like crime drama, you know? Like, I reckon it could happen, definitely, and it will probably happen. But yeah, it's interesting that the Tojo and the Ome apparently do not exist anymore. So, yeah, we'll have to see what the future holds with that. But in any case, guys, that is that. Yeah, I really did like this game. You know, I look forward to what Ryuga Gotoku does with Ichi in the future. I'm expecting really good things from the guy, and yeah, I think that's that. So my game of the year so far, I don't know about that. I actually feel like, you know, it kind of annoys me because in 2018, my game of the year was a Yakuza game, and in 2019, my game of the year was a Yakuza game. Well, Judgment, which isn't really a Yakuza game, but kind of is. It's a whole thing. I almost don't want to say this is my game of the year just because I'm tired of constantly naming Yakuza games. It's my game of the year, but I don't know. Maybe I'll make a video about that eventually. But in any case, guys, that's that. I recommend this game. See you after. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.